chapter 12, Regenerating Civilization, it's called. It lays out this whole case for how AI could help us, well, actually create a better future. Not just, a slightly improved version of what we've got.
Right. It's not incremental. It's like this whole reimagining, which is ambitious.
Yeah, for sure. And what's interesting is, it starts with this, well, pretty honest look at where we're at now. The chapter says that our world, even with all this tech we have, might actually be making us dumber.
Yeah, that's the natural stupidity idea, right? Like, it's not that we're not smart, but we're getting, I don't know, maybe too reliant on tech to do the thinking for us.
Totally. Have you ever felt like without your phone or GPS, you'd be totally lost? That's kind of what the chapter's talking about.
Oh, for sure. Like, I know I rely on my GPS way more than I should. Like, even for places I've been to a bunch of times, I still just automatically plug it in.
It's like we're outsourcing our brains to our devices. And the chapter goes into these, 4 specific pressure points that technology is, making worse.
Yeah, the first one, information overload. Think about it. Every single day you're hit with news, social media, emails, it's constant.
And the chapter's saying all that input actually makes it harder to, really understand the world, right? We're drowning in data, but is it meaning?
Exactly. We're starved for meaning, even while we're, swimming in information.
And then there's this pressure to, always be doing something, act fast. Tech has made everything so much faster, but it makes us more impulsive too, maybe.
I think so. Constantly bombarded with notifications, deadlines, everything's urgent.
Right. We're always in this fight or flight mode, which isn't exactly good for, deep thinking.
Nope, not at all. You can't exactly ponder the meaning of life when you're, frantically answering emails.
Okay, so we're overwhelmed, we have to act fast, but then the chapter also talks about this lack of meaning. We crave it, but we settle for these easy answers.
Yeah, those superficial explanations, we don't dig deeper because it's, well, easier not to.
And that ties into the 4th point, right?
Yeah.
What we choose to remember, or rather, what we don't bother remembering because, hey, Google's got it right.
Exactly. It's like our memory's gone to the cloud. But the chapter says that comes with a cost, when we don't really have to engage with information to make it our own.
We miss out on something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about when you really had to struggle to understand something. It might have been frustrating then, but...
But you learned it in a deeper way, yeah. That effort makes the understanding, well, more meaningful.
Right. There's a sense of accomplishment that you just don't get from passive learning or, just Googling the answer.
Totally. And the chapter saying that kind of deep thinking, really grappling with complex stuff, that's essential if we want to actually regenerate civilization.
So it's not just about using AI to make smarter machines. It's about using it to make ourselves, smarter humans.
Exactly. And that brings us to the next point the chapter makes about the potential for language to be used for manipulation. Sounds a little out there maybe, but...
But think about it. Words, they have power, right? They can inspire us, but they can also incite us or even deceive us.
Right. It can almost be like a form of hypnosis, right? We're swayed by a speaker's charisma, the way they use words, even if we don't totally get the logic of what they're saying.
Yeah, and the chapter brings up how this plays out in the real world, with populism and how certain figures use language to appeal to emotions, even if what they're saying isn't really, factual.
Right. And we want to be clear here. We're not taking sides or anything, just looking at how language itself can be this tool.
Exactly. Just analyzing it. The point is, when we're not thinking critically, when we're overloaded with information and just craving meaning,
we're more vulnerable to that kind of manipulation. It's like we're primed for it.
And that's where the chapter's critique of corporations comes in, right? It argues that even these big tech companies, even the ones at the forefront of AI, are often more focused on selling us sugar water than on using their tech to, actually improve our lives.
It's a powerful metaphor, that sugar water thing. Basically, corporations are always trying to sell us stuff we don't need.
And they're really good at it, too. Those ads that promise you'll be happier if you buy their product or whatever. It's playing on our desire for meaning, but...
But the solutions they're offering are, well, shallow. They don't last.
Right, exactly. And the chapter gives some concrete examples, think about planned obsolescence. Why do products break down so easily, and why is it so hard to fix them?
Yeah, you're always being pushed to upgrade, to buy the newest model, even if your old one still works fine.
It's like this cycle of consumption, right? Which is great for the company, but not so great for, well, anyone else.
Right, and then there's Bitcoin and the whole cryptocurrency thing. The chapter questions, is this artificial scarcity, this idea of limited digital assets worth the environmental damage it causes? I mean, the energy used for Bitcoin mining is crazy.
Yeah, it seems like a system that's like designed to benefit a few, not to create a better world for everyone.
That's one way to look at it, yeah. And then you've got Google and Facebook, these companies that built empires on our attention. The chapter argues that them relying so much on advertising, on keeping us glued to their platforms, might actually be making us, dumber.
It's like they're profiting from our distraction.
Yeah.
We're so busy scrolling and liking that we don't have time to actually, like, think.
Right. So the big question is, if AI can be used for profit, can it also be used to promote, real human well-being?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And the chapter says yes, but it requires us to, like, fundamentally change how we think and how our society works.
It's a huge challenge, but it's also, well, a really exciting possibility. So we've talked about, like, the downsides, the ways AI could make things worse. But the chapter also has this whole vision for how it could make things better, like way better, a future based on, well, you remember that ikigai concept?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That one really stuck with me. Like, it's not just about getting by, right? It's
Yeah.
about, like, truly thriving, finding that thing you're good at that the world needs and you enjoy.
Exactly. And the chapter says AI can help make that happen, like not for just a few people, but for everyone. And it starts by kind of challenging our current, like, economic system, the one that's all about profits over people a lot of the time.
Yeah, like the whole selling sugar water thing we were talking about. It feels like we're stuck on this treadmill, always wanting more, but never quite getting satisfied.
Yeah, and the chapter suggests instead of this economy of scarcity, we could have an economics of abundance helped along by AI.
Abundance. That's a big word. What does that even look like? Like abundance for everyone? Sounds kind of utopian almost.
It's a big idea, that's for sure. But the chapter gives examples, like, think about resources, right? AI could help us manage those way better, so we're not just using stuff up for quick profits.
Right, like smarter energy grids or systems that track, deforestation and stuff to make sure we're not ruining the planet.
Exactly. And it could help with business models, too. Like, imagine worker cooperatives where AI helps manage things and everyone shares the profits fairly.
So it's like using AI to make things more democratic, right? Not just concentrated wealth at the top.
That's the idea. And the chapter talks about education and healthcare, too, which are, well, huge areas where not everyone has equal access.
Okay, yeah, tell me more about the education part. Anyone who's dealt with, like, student loans or just felt totally lost in school, they'd want to hear this.
Imagine, like, liberated learning, right?
Right.
AI tutors that personalize your education so it's tailored to you. No more one-size-fits-all classrooms.
So no more boring lectures or those standardized tests that don't really tell you anything. I like the sound of that.
Right. And healthcare, too. Instead of waiting till you're sick, AI could help us be proactive, like personalized health assistance, monitoring you in real time.
So it's like prevent problems before they happen. That'd be huge, especially for people who don't have good health care to begin with.
Exactly. But the chapter's clear. All of this depends on us making smart choices about how we develop AI. We can't just let the market, decide everything.
So it's not just about building cool tech, but making sure it's used for good, like tech that aligns with our values as, a society.
Exactly. And that's where things get, well, really interesting. There's this part about the tyranny of convenience, which I thought was so insightful.
Tyranny of convenience. Okay, I'm listening.
It's this idea that we always go for the easiest, most effortless solution, right? But sometimes the things that are really meaningful, they take effort. You got to work for them.
It's like, hiking to the top of a mountain instead of taking a tram. It's harder, sure, but you feel so much better when you reach the top.
Perfect analogy. The chapter even uses this example of Polynesian wayfinding, navigating by the star. We have GPS now, but people are relearning this ancient skill.
Because it's meaningful, right? It connects them to something bigger.
Exactly. And that applies to AI, too. It's not about letting AI do everything for us, making us lazy. It's about using it to, like, push ourselves further, to become better.
I love that. It's not about being slaves to tech. It's about using tech to, like, unlock our full potential as, humans.
Exactly. Which brings us to this final idea the chapter talks about, finding balance.
Balance. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. In what sense?
The chapter says real progress, both for us as individuals and as a society, comes from finding that balance between, opposing forces like order and chaos, individual and collective, security and freedom.
Okay, yeah, I get it. Like
Yeah.
finding that sweet spot where things are in harmony.
Exactly. And it uses the open source movement as an example, like individuals with their own talents working together to create something that benefits everyone.
It's a pretty cool model for how, technology can empower people, not just make a few people rich, but actually make the world better.
Right. And the chapter says AI could help scale that kind of collaboration up to tackle these big problems like climate change, poverty, all that stuff.
So instead of a few corporations controlling AI,
Hmm.
you could be this tool for like collective action, right? Everyone working together.
That's the vision. But it's not automatic. It takes effort. We got to challenge the status quo and really commit to using AI for good.
It's inspiring, but it's a lot to process. What's the one big takeaway you want people to remember from this?
The key is we have a choice. We can let AI bring out the worst in us, greed, fear, all that. Or we can use it to bring out the best creativity, empathy, wisdom.
It's powerful, right? The future's not set in stone. We actually get to decide what it looks like.
Exactly. And the choices we make now, they matter.
What can we actually do to make sure AI is used for good?
Well, the chapter says it starts with like a mindset shift. We got to stop thinking of AI as this thing that's just happening to us, something we can't control.
Yeah, it's easy to feel that way, right? Like
Hmm.
technology is this unstoppable force and we're just kind of along for the ride.
Right, but the chapter reminds us like we're not just passengers, we're the ones building the tracks.
I like that. So how do we take control? Where do we even start?
The chapter gives some ideas. One big one is education. Like, we got to start teaching people about AI from a young age. And not just the tech stuff, but also the ethics, the impact it has on society.
It's like, teaching kids about being good digital citizens, right?
Hmm.
How to use the internet responsibly. We need to do that for AI too.
Exactly. And not just for kids either. It's got to be at all levels, like schools, universities, workplaces, even just in our communities. The more people understand AI, the better we can shape it.
Okay, makes sense. So education's key. What else?
Regulation. We
Ah,
need rules, policies, to guide how AI is developed and used.
that seems tough though, right? Like tech changes so fast, regulations can feel kind of slow.
True, but the chapter says we can't just wait around. We got to start setting some ethical boundaries now, even if they need to adapt as tech changes.
Okay, so what kind of regulations? Can you give me some examples?
Sure, like regulations to make sure AI systems are transparent so we can understand how they work, what data they're using, how they make decisions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
If we're going to let AI make decisions that affect us, we got to know how it's making those decisions, right?
Right, and regulations to prevent AI from being used for bad stuff, like algorithms that are biased against certain groups of people.
Oh yeah, we've already seen examples of that, right? AI systems that are racist or sexist because of the data they were trained on.
Exactly. We got to make sure AI doesn't make those problems worse. And then, of course, there's data privacy. AI needs tons of data, but people need to have control over their own information.
It's tricky, but it's important. We can't just let companies collect and use our data however they want, right?
Right. And the chapter points out, even with good regulations, that's not enough. We need a culture of like ethical innovation within the tech industry itself.
So it's about changing how the people who are building AI think, right?
Yeah.
Making them consider the impact their work has on the world.
Yeah, like building ethics into the process from the very beginning.
Like the Hippocratic Oath for doctors, right?
Yeah.
Do no harm. We need that for AI developers too.
Love that analogy. And the chapter says public engagement's crucial too. We can't just leave these decisions to the tech experts or politicians. We all need to be part of the conversation about AI.
Yeah, it's got to be a democratic process, right?
Mhm.
Everyone has a voice, not just the people making the tech.
Exactly. And that can look like town hall meetings, online forums, even art that explores the complexities of AI. The more we talk about it, the more we'll understand it, and the more power we'll have to shape it.
Okay, so we've got education, regulation, ethical innovation, public engagement. It's a lot. But it seems like the chapter's really saying it all comes down to one thing: agency.
Yes, exactly. The whole point is to reclaim our agency in this world that's changing so fast because of technology. We're not powerless. We get to choose how AI affects our lives.
Like, we're not just watching this happen, we're actively shaping it.
Exactly. And the choices we make now, they're going to determine what the future looks like. It's a big responsibility, but it's also, wow, it's pretty exciting.
It's like the author saying, hey, this is serious stuff. AI could change everything, but it's up to us to decide how.
That's a great way to put it. And the chapter ends on this note of, like, cautious optimism. The author knows there are challenges, but they also believe we can handle them.
It's a challenge, yeah, but it's also a chance to, step up and create something amazing.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so inspiring, right? It doesn't give us all the answers, but it gives us a way to think about AI that's both realistic and hopeful.
Well said. And that wraps up our deep dive into Chapter 12 of Artificial Empathy. But the conversation doesn't end here. Keep learning about AI, stay informed, and get involved. Because the future isn't something that just happens. It's something we all create, together.